It's snowing. That's something. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to a stream where I realized all throughout March I didn't have a chance to stream. I think I did stream. No, I didn't. Sorry, I was just kind of busy with stuff. But yeah. So it's snowing. Cool. I'm also driving a vehicle that I will be customizing here pretty shortly because it's related adventure, which I talked about in my previous stream a month ago. Sorry for the radio silence, by the way. I would have streamed sooner, but a lot of things going on. No, I'm not back at my papa's house. Don't worry, I'm going back there. Someone's gonna have to make me go back there. You already know the story. Anyway, so it's April Fool's Day. I know this is not an April Fool's stream because I don't want to sound like an idiot, even though I already am. But what I am gonna say, if I don't have hiccups for some reason, is yes, is beef. These guys can't drive for crap. Anyway, yeah. So nice looking info. That's the name of the vehicle. I'm not trying to say but anyway, yeah. So this vehicle. I'm not fooling you with this either. The only fooling I'm going to be doing is fooling and fooling. You know what I was referencing when you grew up in the 2000s like I did? Even though I didn't watch that show until 2023. It's cool, shut up. Anyway, yeah, so I can't remember the last time that Rockstar gave us snow on April Fool's. I know it was a few years ago. I just don't remember when exactly it was. What I can say, however, is that, ironically enough, I talked about my story venture a while back, like a month ago, like in my last stream. So in Venture's universe, there is an equivalent to California. I did not mean to pull out a weapon. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is the one vehicle where you can't switch to unarmed. So you're just stuck with whatever weapon. They really need to fix that. But anyway, in Venture's universe, you have the United Freedom States of America, UFSA. I don't know why I said it slowly like some disabled kid. I guess technically I'm disabled. Anyway, no, I'm not trying to make a jab. The UFSA. I was trying to say it like that, but my brain's just like, slow it down there, Slick. But in Venture's universe, in the UFSA, there's a state known as Kalahari, not spelled the same thing as the real life Kalahari. It's spelled the same way as California, so Cala. Wait, no. Yeah, yeah, Calihari. There we go. Which, given the name, it's a reference to California.
Here for the magic touch?
The first time that place is visited is, I believe, chapter 5 of the story, or chapter 4. Yeah, chapter 5. No, chapter 4, I think. I don't remember, but what I can say is that in that chapter there was snowfall, which is really rare for California, I'm pretty sure. Uh, Same thing as here in Texas, where rain is very hard to come by. But yeah, so, you know,
You got a whole lot more horses under there now.
okay, sorry, I'm just looking at stuff. Um, oh, right. My brain doesn't want to work. So the first time that this state is visited during the story is around Christmas time. And I know this for a fact because of the fact that let me grab my phone real quick just so I'm not sounding like a total idiot right here. So, yes, emails. I know I'm streaming. Shut up. Anyway, okay. I have to scroll all the way up. Yeah, here it is. So week 4, which in Venture's story, pretty much all the chapters except for the 20th one and the final one, which is the 25th one. Um, every other chapter, aside from those two, will have week attached to their name. So for example, the first chapter is week 1, so on and so forth. And the reason being is because each chapter takes place over the span of a single week. Um, so that's literally the reason. Um, yeah, I'd say this one looks more like a car you'd see in Colorado back in the 2000s, which, you know, but we're not talking about Colorado right now. We're talking about California, even though both states have their own names in Venture. What I was gonna say though is the fact that the group, yeah, the group. So the characters so far in the story go to Kalahari, which is Venture's equivalent to California, in week 5, which is a Christmas themed week, but it's also part of the actual story. So it's both a Christmas story that I wrote, but also an actual like part of the plot. And they stay there in the following chapter. So it's yeah. I should stress this by saying that week 5 they weren't there already. It's that they were on the way to Kalahari, and then they stayed there for the rest of the week when they got there, and the following week they were there for a while, and then they left. Um, but yeah, during those 2 chapters, there was snow on the ground, which is unheard of because California rarely ever gets snow. You know?
Looking sharp.
Sorry for being quiet. I did not want to pick the muscle. Sorry for being quiet. I'm just focusing on this because I'm trying to make this vehicle a close replica of the car that Xander's family uses, which the character in the car right there is supposed to be Xander, the main protagonist's adventure.
These tires are hardcore.
Yeah. And it's daytime. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying, so Kalahari, it is visited twice, at least so far in the story. Don't ask me why I said so far, just know that for now it's two. There may be a third and final visit coming up, but I won't say when yet. But if you're in the Sabrina Online fan club, then you know, which that's a VRC, VR chat fan club. So yeah. Anyway, so this is the official design for Xander's parents' home. So Xander has a mother and a father named Morgan and Heather. And at the very beginning of the story, it stated that they bring Xander to a local store called C-Mart, which, if you know how Venture works by now, it's pretty much like Grand Theft Auto, in that the world is not really a parody in this way, but is more like a fictionalized version of the real world where everything is the same thing, but it's different. For C-Mart, it's a reference to Kmart, which in real life is, you know, pretty much the way of the dinosaur at this point, which is why we have VRC Kmart. So, yeah. So, anyway, um, there's also fictional vehicle brands in Venture's universe that are based on real ones. One common example would be Trek, which, if you know the term Trek, like trekking through the woods or something, that's what it's a reference to. It's just Trek, so an adventure. So quite literally, Trek is based on Jeep. And like I said before, Xander's parents used a vehicle called the Trek Comanche, which is based on the Cherokee. Um, there's some other vehicle brands too, like Chevron being based on Chevy. There's King, which is based on Ford. There's Forge, which is based on Dodge, so on and so forth. Oh yeah, there's Reese, which is spelled Reise, which is actually a German company, and it's based on. Wait, remember? Oh yeah, it's based on VW, so it's Volkswagen. So
What the fuck?
okay, cool. Didn't get the cops on me. But yeah, so as you can imagine, a lot of effort was put into Venture as a whole, not just the story, but everything to do with Venture. So the cast of characters, which, as is tradition with me being the vice president of the Sabrina Online VRC fan club, um, because there's plenty of other fan clubs related to that webcomic, but I think we're probably one of the only ones that are within VR chat. Um, I was actually given permission by the vice president, who also happens to be one of my best friends, that, hey, you can make these stories, just make sure that you include some reference to Sabrina Online or have them in the story so that way it feels like it's so inclusive of, the source material that we have here. And so at first, when I started making stories that had little to do with Sabrina Online, it was through references to the comic, but when I wrote my first big series of stories, which was Solaria, so it's not soul like Sully, it's soul like solar system. Um, that was then where I actually included the characters in the story as, actual people in the story. Um, but then we have Venture, where the characters are all humans and everything. It's a different version of Earth from what Sabrina Online is set in. So to make things fair, the Sabrina Online cast are seen as humans in that story, with occasional references to them being seen as, also, that is a really nice color, their comic counterparts, including a few parts of the story where they are their comic counterparts, even despite the fact that they don't have, at least for Sabrina and Zigzag, they don't have those bodily functions. So, no, there's not any references to that. Gross. Anyway, yeah. So, um, anyway, yeah. I'm trying to think. My brain doesn't want a brain. Oh, right. So I already talked about Kalahari. In the most recent chapter that I've written for Venture, because I haven't gotten to writing uh, chapter 20 yet, which doesn't have week in the name because it takes place over the course of a single night, but it actually takes place like immediately after the events of week 19, and it leads directly into week 21, um, which makes sense because this next chapter that I haven't written yet, it takes place over the course of a single night, and it flips between Xander sleeping, and it's a very important plot element, so I'm not going to say too much because you'd have to read the actual stories. But it'll flip between his perspective as he's in deep sleep and in a location known as Zenith. Not to be confused with the Zenith from the Godzilla creepypasta from the NES. Now you know. But this Zenith is a dreamlike location that is a part of another location that can only be accessed by sleeping. And it's only for people who are psychic. Anyway, that's all I'm willing to say. It's a pretty big plot element. I'd rather not spoil it. But it'll flip between Xander's perspective and his friend's perspectives, which in Venture, he first meets Zigzag, Arsene, and Sabrina in week 1. And that's after he's informed by one of his friends that those three characters are in his home state of Coronado, which is, again, based in Colorado. And so he manages to find them by sheer accident. And so they agree to come with him back to his house with his parents, so that way they can meet them. Other stuff happens, and then Xander, after learning that he is psychic, and that he has psychic powers, figures that he can use this power for good, and finds out that he has a pretty big destiny to fulfill. He's got a big adventure ahead of him, which is what we're in now. And so he takes it upon himself to start off this adventure. And so Zigzag and her friends decide that they're going to make sure that Xander sees it through, and that he's going to be safe. Because, fun fact about Xander and the other three main protagonists that make up the group known as the Destined Ones, they're all teenagers. I'm not even joking. Xander is 18. The second character in the party, which is Jesse, is 18. The third character, which is Cooper, he recently turned 18 on, I kid you not, the same day as my birthday, Valentine's Day. And then we have Ryusei, who is 19. So he's actually technically the oldest of the group, but you know. Yep. Anyway, oh God, the money has 6-7 in the name. Oh no, not number. But what are you doing wearing a bikini? It's snowing. But yeah. Anyway, oh, that was quite the voice track I had. But yeah, so um, yeah, pretty big responsibility for someone who's still kind of a kid. And I'm not saying that Xander acts childish. He's actually incredibly mature for someone his age. It's just that when Venture was first introduced to my friends in the fan club, it actually took place before Xander's 18th birthday, which, I kid you not, his birthday is on the same day that the Venture's storyline first began. So it started off with the two-part prelude, sort of prequel story. Not really a prequel, it's a prologue. Because the prequel won't be until next year, and that's for Venture Genesis, which is set before the events of this story. And basically, it details what led up to this current story, and all this other stuff. It's a lot to talk about. I'd be here for hours, and I'd rather not. I'd rather just talk to y'all for a while, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So no, quit honking at me. I just got in the car. Anyway, yeah. So as you can imagine, Xander is the kind of protagonist who, despite the fact that Venture itself, as you would have guessed from the psychic powers thing, is heavily influenced by Earthbound, right down to the fact that in artwork I've literally done the title design based on Earthbound's font. So like the actual typeface they use for the box art. Um, but the main difference here is that Xander actually does speak, and like I said, he's actually quite mature for someone of his age. And I designed Xander to be the archetype of, he may be an unlikely hero. After all, he's still just a kid, but he's incredibly mature for someone his age, and he's knowledgeable of what's right and wrong. He does good by others. He's never hurt anyone. He's always stood up for people. He's pretty much the idealized version of like that really cool kid that you wish that you had a friend that you wish were friends with. Like, just he's that guy, he's that really cool guy that you wish that you knew all your life. Uh, we have the second character in the party, which is Jessie, and she, yes, it's a she, it's Jessie, so her name is actually Jessica, but she goes by Jessie. She's a tomboy. She's pretty strong, like, she's got plenty of muscle, but she's not like Paula from Earthbound, where she's seen as, like, pretty and wearing a dress. No. Jessie is someone who had a really rough life. She was born in the state of Arizona, which is based in Arizona. which the name Alisona is actually a reference to a historical name in Arizona. I think it was Alisona. So I just named the state Alisona as a reference to it. But she briefly lived in Alisona for about 2 years before she had to move to the state of O'Hare, which is based in Ohio. And that was because of the fact that her father got a job opportunity in that state. And so he, Jesse, and her mom, if I could stop freaking yawning, because apparently I didn't get good sleep last night, even though I clearly did. They all moved to O'Hare, and fun fact about Jesse's mom is that she's one of the 4 protagonists of the prequel story, Venture Genesis. And at first she's merely referenced in the story, but she actually makes her full debut and introduction into the cast of characters that make up the main heroes. But yeah, so Jesse's father was not a nice guy. Still isn't. He absolutely hates the fact that his daughter was born psychic, which was inherited from her mother. It's also worth noting that Xander, unlike Jesse, doesn't have psychic parents at all. It is possible, however, for psychics to be born by chance without, psychic parents. So, it's more so just like they're given those powers at birth by unknown means. I'm not going to say what it is. Just know that for you it's unknown means, for me it's known. Anyway, so yeah. Jesse's mom, however, has always stood by Jesse and tried her best to defend her daughter. This led to the point where Jesse's mom ended up divorcing Jesse's father. His name is Bradley. Jesse's mom is Sandra. Hello, person watching. I think I might know who that is. Maybe. Anyway, so Jesse's father, Bradley, come to find out during the story, is actually the leader of a notorious organization known as Pulse, which is an agency that has tried to I'll just say this. They don't like psychics. They try to capture them and incarcerate them, even though they don't work for any law enforcement. And the reason being is because Pulse was actually an organization made in a joint effort between the antagonist of Venture's story as a whole and a group of people who have come to really, really hate psychics because of the fact that they keep thinking that, oh, they're the root of all evil. When in fact, that is not true at all, and to confirm that, the characters that are psychic in the story are all good guys. So you have Xander, Jesse, and Ryusuke, who's Japanese American. The only one of the Destin ones, if I could stop stuttering, the only one of the 4 characters that make up the Destin ones who isn't psychic is Cooper, who is pretty much the archetype of a nerdy kid who doesn't look much like a nerd in terms of like your stereotypical wearing suspenders, wearing broken glasses, weird braces and teeth, or anything like that. No, he looks like a kid who just plays video games a lot, but he's actually really, really smart and knows a thing or two about tinkering and history and all this stuff. Think of it like this. Cooper is the geek that you wish you knew. Jessie is basically that cool big sister that everyone would like, that stands up for them and knows how to kick ass and take names. And I do mean that literally, because Jessie knows a thing or two about fighting. She uses brass knuckles as her weapon. No, knuckle dusters, not brass knuckles. Xander uses a baseball bat as is tradition within a story that's inspired by Earthbound. Cooper actually uses, so far it's one weapon, but he made it himself. It is a gel ball blaster that is based on a fictitious video game set in Venture's universe. And I'm not going to say any more, except for the fact that it may be coming out in a different format at some point. But yeah, so then we have Ryusei, who uses a sword that his father made, like a katana sword. The thing is, none of these weapons actually hurt people in the way that you would think. So, how it works is Cooper's blaster that he made is the only thing that can technically hurt people, because gel ball blasters still hurt like hell. But the three psychics of the group, because Cooper isn't psychic at all, but it is implied during the story that Jessie knew Cooper very briefly when she lived in Arizona and hadn't seen him since she and her parents moved. Before you ask, Jessie ran away from home at the very end of week 1 adventure, and since then she's been with Xander and the others. And, you know, yeah. Anyway, so, Ryusei. You might think, well wait, he uses a sword. If he uses that against a human that's trying to attack them, won't that just hurt them? Not necessarily. See, psychics that have weapons, even if it's their own fists, they don't actually hurt the person directly. Instead, whenever a weapon is used, including just bare fists, there's a field of psychic energy that surrounds the weapon as it prepares to make contact. This field of energy is actually psychokinetic energy that will disperse by the time they make contact with that person or object. Essentially meaning that there's no direct contact between the weapon itself and the target. It's just that field of energy that knocks them away or, hits them. So instead of humans, dying when they take damage from that, they just, they go back to normal and run off. Kind of like Earthbound does with, people who are influenced by certain things. Yes, Venture has an equivalent. I have not revealed it fully yet. It's just named. And his name has been dropped numerous times. But yeah, so animals in Venture have the same thing going on, where they're kind of just possessed by this evil influence from this unknown being. And by unknown, I mean, like, what I was saying is that, we know his name, the antagonist, but we don't know what he looks like. Well, technically we do, and it's because of a enemy named the Guardian who uses a suit of armor that the antagonist once wore in Venture's prequel story, Genesis. So, yeah, that's all you need to know. Just know that this guy is pretty much the antagonist of Earthbound, but a lot worse. Like, way, way worse. But also very similar. That's kind of a good thing. Anyway, yeah, so, point being, yeah, the weapons that the group uses don't really hurt people like you would expect. So Xander uses a baseball bat. Currently his weapon is known as the Slugger Titanic, which is a titanium baseball bat, which in real life is banned for the most part from baseball. Like actual Major League Baseball, because they either use a wooden bat or an aluminum. But yeah, I thought, well, hey, why not have a titanium baseball bat and have that as Xander's weapon going forward until a certain point? I'm not gonna say when, it's sooner than you think. Anyway, yeah, so, oh yeah, there's other states in Venture that are named either in reference to their real life state or the names themselves are references to that state. So, for example, there's a state known as Tejas, which is literally just Texas, but replace the X with a J. I kid you not, that name literally means the same thing as Texas. So it means friend in Native American and Spanish. It is a greeting that means friend. So that's kind of nice. We already have Coronado. There's New Mendoza, which is based on New Mexico, which, if you could gather from that, Mendoza in Venture's universe is Mexico. It's one of the few countries that have their name changed. But there's Victoria and West Victoria, which are based on the Virginia states. There's Frida. No, it's Florida. Okay. I forgot the name that I gave the Florida equivalent state, but it's not Leon. It's not Leonida. Wait, no, it's. Oh yeah, it's Leonida. That's literally how it's pronounced, Leonida. Anyway, sorry, it's just I'm focused on driving while talking. But there are other states as well. I think the name I gave to Washington and Washington, D.C. would be Wellington. And in case you're wondering, yes, since Zigzag is in the story, yes, Double Z Studios is also in the story. No, there's nothing raunchy that goes on at all. even though Double D Studios is that kind of film studio. Keep it in your pants. But yeah, so uh,
Hi! Welcome home, sir.
there's Navajo, which is based on Nevada, and there's actually a city in that state in Venture's story that is visited twice in the story, and it's called Las Vibrante, which means uh, City of Vibrance. Which, given the fact that in real life there's Las Vegas and how it's neon soaked, you already know what Las Vibrante is based on. Let's see. Uh, yeah, there's the state of Alaska, which is based on Alaska. So, Alaska. Why did I pronounce it two different ways? Anyway, Alaska is based on Alaska. There's Oakfield, which is based in Oklahoma. I already talked about Kalahari. Um, I haven't named all the states of the U.S. into Avengers universe, but just know that there will that will be talked about in a future story. Um, I can say though that there are certain states that have already been named but aren't going to be visited in this story. That'll be saved for Venture Genesis. One of them being the state of Wapiti, which is named after the fictional tribe of Indians from Red Dead 2 called Wapiti. Um, so, yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. So I think that will just about cover the stream. I know it's been a lot of rambling and whatnot, but hey, that's what I like doing. I like talking to y'all. I like telling y'all how I'm doing. I like yammering about this stuff because it's fun and I want to let y'all learn about this stuff. But with that being said, I do have to bid you adieu for now. I will try and stream more often. Can't make any promises, but hey, just know that I am always making plans on streaming. I just have to make a good time. That said, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, then like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you turn on notifications, and that way you don't miss anything. You don't have to do any of that stuff, but it is certainly appreciated if you want to show me some support. Just know that I'm not monetized in any way, shape, or form. I don't have a bank account or anything like that. It's not like I lost a bank account, I just never had one. But just know that your support for me, at least morally, is more than enough to keep me going with this stuff. Anyway, with all that being said, thank you all for watching. Let your friends know about this stuff, and I will see you later. Catch you later.